It's time to get sexy, so watch Secular Sexuality Live Thursdays at 7 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTSS and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/callsex.
Super excited for this episode. If you don't know already, it is Sunday, January 16th, 2022. We are Talk Heathen, a product of the ACA, the Atheist Community of Austin, a 501c3 organization dedicated to the promotion of positive atheism and the separation of religion and government. And my guest today is none other than Jesus Christ. I didn't think I'd ever say that, so I'm very excited to have said that. Jesus, where have you been?
Everywhere, but apparently not in your heart.
Yeah, well, so
Thanks.
maybe we can touch upon that. And for those that don't know, I've never been a Christian. I come from a different background of beliefs that were unfounded, and so I talk to some Christians, and every now and then they tell me that they have a relationship with you. And I was wondering if maybe we could walk down that, because from my view, I find the relationship to be somewhat toxic. I didn't know if maybe you would want to like play along here for a second and I could list out a few things.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you how weird it is for me. I mean, the parasocial relationship, it's very strange. It's very strange.
Yeah. And well, let me fill in like what I think the other side might be experiencing, or at least what I'm describing that relationship to be. Persistent unreliability, a lack of communication, insufficient support, ceaseless control issues, feelings of unworthiness. And by the way, you're the closest that I got to God. So, and if I don't know, some people say you're the same thing and maybe you're not. I don't know how that works. I guess it depends on the day or who I talk to. But since you're the closest I got, I'm gonna kind of say that you are attached to this as well. Vibes of entrapment, packed with uncertainty, laced with dishonesty, filled with criticism, brings out the worst, and nonstop narcissism. In all seriousness, though, I know you actually do a lot of good from your channel, the actual Jesus Christ that I'm talking to now. And from my understanding, you actually funnel a lot of the super chats, or I think all of your YouTube revenue goes to a charity. Did you want to kind of explain to the audience?
Sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, all 100% of all of my YouTube revenue goes to charity. That includes super chats and all the Google AdSense and everything that comes in. And I've never received a single penny of that. And the charity I support is called Aussie Rescue SoCal. It's a breed rescue based in Southern California that does really, really wonderful work. And I chose them because I knew that every penny that I gave them from my channel would go directly to the easing of suffering, instead of a lot of other charities where a lot of the money has to go to administration, marketing costs, all kinds of other overhead. But this one particular charity, I got a guarantee from the CEO that every penny would go directly to easing the suffering of dogs and support the medical needs of several dogs. And so that's I don't talk about that a lot, I guess, on the channel. Sure. It's probably something I should bring up more, but I felt it was, I did that from the get-go because, well, it's the Jesus thing to do. I mean, sure. Charity is kind of a big deal for me. And and yeah, a lot of people don't realize that and feel that I'm kind of in this for just money or something like that. But that's
and in all seriousness, I think that's that. I wouldn't want to actually put all the list of things that I put towards you, because I really do respect that. But what actually got you started with the whole thing in general? I know you've talked about this on Truth Wanted a little bit, but maybe for viewers that aren't aware or that follow your content that didn't see that episode.
Right. Well, I didn't choose the tunic. The tunic chose me.
Sure.
Being the son of God isn't really like a choice. It's just something that kind of happens, I guess. But on a personal level, I do basically what I do as kind of an outward protest, a very personal kind of outward protest for family who still hold beliefs that I feel need challenging. And so that's essentially why I do what I do. And then I kind of found out in doing that I was maybe not necessarily helping the people that I intended to, but instead helped a much wider audience and found a much bigger audience. And now the thing that really keeps me going is these personal letters and stuff from disciples who have made a course change in their life for the good because of something I had said or something kind of just finally got through, and that brings me great joy and happiness.
Sure. And I've heard you say that like on TikTok, things like that is where you get a lot of those. I'm not to the degree of yourself, but I've had a little taste of that. We talked about this, I think, a little bit before the show, but you don't get that in person. You don't get the person walking up to you, point the finger, the Jesus finger at you, so to speak. That seems to be kind of absent from your life, or is it?
It's there. I mean, it's probably not what you'd think. No, I don't have any sort of physical or personal confrontations or anything like that out in public or anything like that. All my interactions in public are very positive, and that's great. It's mostly just folks getting very. It's the Sadducees and Pharisees really that are on my back all the time, just riding my tunic hard, with these
poetic,
Yeah,
it's extremely poetic. But I actually saw I was showing my roommates one you did with Santa, and you're gonna have to teach me, as somebody who's been told that they look like Jesus, how you turn the water to wine. But we'll do that. We won't expose.
Oh, it's really easy. It's faith. That's it. That's all it takes. Just
I don't have any of that, so I don't know that it's gonna work for me. Then I guess my water will remain to be H2O in that case. Well, before we get to calls, I want to let people know in the audience that there are many ways that you could support us. Below the video, there's a join button. If you click that button, it supports us. It also gives you some perks like not having to deal with the slow mode when we have a lot of viewers on. And then below that as well, the actual live chat itself, there's a donation button. And if you donate there, that actually goes 100% goes to us. We don't have to have the YouTube fee. So you directly support us 100%. It helps us continue what we're doing, helps us provide the production and content that we want to provide to our viewers. So please consider doing that, and let's go to calls if you're ready. All right, let's bring in Tristan from Texas. Pronouns are he, him. And what did you want to talk about today?
Hey, I've been thinking about this a while after listening to Matt Dillahunty talk about like activism, going out and talking to people and trying to, fix the world, right? But
okay,
what if we can't fix or change enough lives? What if you can't? What if we can't achieve what we're trying to before we run into an issue that isn't just reversible? right? Climate change.
Well, let me. I guess I have to cut you off real fast because I'm kind of wanting to understand like end goal wise, because it seems like the way I'm interpreting it is like you're saying there has to be X amount of change for you to like see some progress, whereas I'm somebody immediately is just going to tell you any incremental amount of change, whether it's one person or even a person just contemplating the matter, that's success to me. Because that's, I think anybody that comes from that side, that was the seed that planted them to get to the other side, right? So I'm curious if you're saying like on an end goal at looking at like most people being on a certain side, as opposed to the incremental amount of change going towards that goal.
It's not that, because I was one of those people that was changed and convinced just slowly over time, right? But like we are looking at things, we're looking at like the world's like, you know, heating up, right? Climate change is happening, and we see issues with like Germany right now just shut down all of its nuclear power plants, right? And it caused a lot of issues in which it wasn't necessarily beneficial. And if we don't necessarily like change our course at a high enough frequency, I fear that we may set ourselves on an irreversible path if we don't change enough people to understand that our world matters, right?
I guess I'm going to let JC give his wisdom here.
Yeah.
Thy's wisdom. I don't want to say like that. I think, I don't know. I guess there's like for me, I'm thinking that there's like this ability that would require some kind of force rather than like genuine consideration of the facts and coming to a conclusion. But I'll let JC take it from there.
Yeah, Tristan, you haven't said anything that I disagree with. The only thing I would say is you possibly might be right, but the idea that we could try and it might not do enough good is not reason enough to not try. So you might be right.
Sorry,
it might be
misunderstanding. I'm not saying that we shouldn't try, but what do we like? Is there anything else we can do that would be of note? If like in this case, right? If we can't, you know, change the course correctly, is there anything else we could do? Because I don't think we should not do it by any means. But what if it's just not enough?
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
There's going to be a lot of not enoughs. There've been a lot in history, and I'm going to tell you right now, there's going to be a few more not enoughs, and they're going to happen. So, and then that might sound bleak, but it is. I mean, it's you just have to do what you can do, the most you can do, and then not get hung up on everybody else.
Yeah, well, Tristan, let me just add too. It's like, what's the alternative, right? Kick rocks. You just said that's not what you're advocating for, and I think I don't think that I would interpret that, but it does seem that, right, to get to how you would know, right, like science, anything else where you're constantly revising or falsifying certain ideas, right, you're going to have to come to these humps and these speed bumps where it might not work or it might not be the best way, but you're not going to know unless you can falsify the prior attempt, right? You're going to have to actually progress. I mean, that's what progression entails, is some form of understanding what didn't work.
Well, the issue I find is even if we falsify and show that everything we're trying to achieve is right, there is a significant portion of our population that will refuse it in spite of the evidence we show.
Well, I mean, is your goal that everybody should believe it?
Well, no, my goal is that everyone should not deny evident reality.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. We should promote critical thinking as well as best as possible. But a part of that process is listening to the other side on the view that they have, and not begging the question that the view you take is the right one, because along the path you should correct views that you have as well, or else I don't think you're doing it right.
Mm-hmm.
And so
that
process
just show evidence and reasoning for our thoughts, then even if we're not necessarily right all the way down the road, we are right at the moment based on our current evidence.
Well, let me ask you this, right? This is kind of how I'm thinking of it. Like, if someone comes up to me and they say like something like science doesn't work, right? And they have this like delusional belief, and they also kind of tandem to that deny scientific discovery. They don't think like novel predictions are useful, right? Generating predictions. They don't think any of that stuff's useful. But then they tell you like that whatever it is they believe in, right? Wouldn't the best process in that to have the discussion and go, okay, well, let me see how your epistemology works. How do you come to knowledge? And in the talk of the conversation, from my perspective, if you have that side of like, mine's not right, but let's explore each other's, for me, it's going to be obvious who comes out on top, and the other person's going to have a lot to consider. But then you have the situations where some of those people don't consider it. Well, it doesn't seem like there's anything we can do about those people. So you're never, ever really, you're going to have to try, but it might just be the case that they're determined to always never listen, and maybe by choice. I mean, depending on how you phrase choice, but we need to continue doing the type of work to convince people, or at least have people reconsider theirs. And I think one of the best ways is saying, look, hey, I could be wrong, but let's compare our views. And in this case, the one that's pro-science, pro-vaccines, or pro the things that are backed up, right? It's just going to win out. I guess I'm not seeing what your expectation is that everybody should believe this, or that we should. I guess I'm failing there.
It's not really an expectation. It's more so if I have kids and I want my kids to grow up in a world that's not going to end, which I don't necessarily think our world is going to end by any means, but like the idea that I want them to live in a world that's better than mine, yet there are people that are actively fighting against it that I can't change their minds, right? What do we do about these issues, about these people that just will not, for a bad phrase, like essentially get on the bandwagon, right? They will not work with us and will actively fight us. Even
legislation and lobbying, something that I have personally made the mistake of not taking seriously. Something that I personally look back on and go, wow, I talked the talk but didn't walk the walk, right? You have to, but that process of that's how we change things, right? We have to get it in terms of lobbying and legislation against ideas that force some, ideology down, everybody's throat, right? So it's the recognition. It's not just the other party, right? We have to too, because someone like myself, if I don't go out and vote, I don't go do things to change. I can talk all I want, but am I doing anything? Like, there's a lot of parts, I guess, is involved, and you're part of that as well. But I guess I'm worried you're on the pessimistic side of it when I think it shouldn't be. I think we're making a lot of progress.
Okay. I understand that. Well, what do you think the best way to start getting into the lobbying and voting and all that? What would you recommend as the starting point?
That's something myself that I'm trying to gain more knowledge on, and people that are into that as well. But Jesus, what maybe you have better information than myself.
Yeah, start small, start local. I mean, it could just be as simple as attending your city council meetings and getting to understand your local government, and then work your way up from there. That's it. Simple as that. I would start there. Just be careful not to, upset the government too much, or else they may, problems could arise. Just be careful with government. I'm telling you from personal experience. That's all.
Understood. I appreciate all that.
Sure. Is anything else? I mean, we're gonna move on to other callers, but I just want to make sure you get any last things you want to say before we go.
Thank you.
All right, Tristan. Well, thank you. Call us again. We'll look forward to it.
Well, you have a wonderful day.
You too. All right. And so, I think, and maybe people in chat people, that this is something that it took me a while to really recognize. And that's the importance of critical thinking, is even when you think you've kind of broken down walls, you still get lost in your conspiracy theory. The government's out to get everyone, doesn't make it, no voting doesn't matter, right? You get into that, and there's still self-correction as you go through all this stuff, right? And so it's not just the other people, it's the people on that side as well.
Yeah, I always get a kick out of reading somebody's Twitter bio when they include critical thinker in their Twitter bio, but they also include their astrology sign or
sure,
something like that.
And that's my thing, is maybe that's the prime picture of what critical thinking is. Now demonstrate it to me, because I have a feeling when we have this conversation that won't be successful. And maybe that conversation might add to the back of your head of, I'm going to be less confident the next time I want to boast about astrology to somebody who knows perhaps more than myself, right? But for anyone that does not know, if you can get these podcasts, like this might be too much Jesus for you on the left and the right side. So you can get these podcasts actually on your phone just through audio. And you can do that at tiny.cc/AEN podcasts. You can check out all of our shows there, which would be Talk Heathen, Truth Wanted, Atheist Experience, Nonprofits, and Secular Sexuality. And, if you do like the amount of Jesus on your screen, you could listen to both and help us out there as well. So there's also the fan run Facebook at tiny.cc/FGTHG. And you can communicate with people in the group, maybe talk about these exact things that we're talking about, where we can get to a position where we can find a better methodology to either convey the ideas or self-correct from our own positions. But yeah, so we can move on. We got some callers stacking up. And so we got, looks like Rain in Utah. And it's, what's your best form of debating against presuppositionalists? JC, I didn't know if maybe you want to take this, if you're familiar with presups. I have a lot to say, so I'll hold off for a second.
I think just debating a debating anybody, I would say the Socratic method is the tried and true way. I think that is the light and the way. I'd say Socrates has got one up on me on that one. Yeah, but I want to hear what you have to say specifically about presuppositionalists. Like, what's
well, Rain, what's your lay us out, I guess, your thought process here.
Well, hi there. First of all, hope you guys are doing awesome.
Doing great.
I'm seeing
chilling with Jesus
right now.
Very blessed.
Look. Hell is frozen over. It's snowing where I'm at in Georgia, which doesn't happen, and I'm sitting next to Jesus. So it's awesome for me. So I'm happy.
It's nice and sunny here in Jerusalem.
I tuned in today and I was like, oh my God, I'm looking at two fucking Jesuses right now. This is the best thing ever.
Thank you.
But good. I'm glad you guys are doing well. I don't know. So Jmike, I'm going to bring out the devil's name, but I've seen you debate Darth Dawkins a couple times, and those types of presuppositionalists, and I listen to it a lot, and I just wonder to myself, like, what are points? What are like really good debating techniques and just really good points that you can use to how to kind of break down this very strange argument? Because I'm very new to debating. I actually learned from watching Talk Heathen, Atheist Experience, and just kind of all the above, and was like, oh my gosh, I want to know how to think critically like this and get way better at this. Not just like I'm right and you're wrong type of thing. It's just I want to be prepared, especially in the world that we live in today. Mm-hmm. I think people should know really good debating techniques and things that they can look up on their own time. Like I literally have a pen and pad right now of like, what are some good ways to do this?
So I guess I have a lot to say, and it's for me, one route that I wouldn't want to spend too much time on, because it gets into like propositional logic and the entailment from like what their position is, which goes into like that everybody knows God exists. And so those are points that I don't think presupposition takes seriously, even though it's actually a logical commitment that they have. My thing, better yet, to say about it is, you have to point out first and foremost that it's literally a howling of begging the question. So, I mean, to state that you couldn't have the claim is going to be that you can only have intelligibility if and only if the Christian God exists. Okay. And when you ask how you know that, right, it's some revelation through the text, which would be circular, revelation through the God, which I don't know how you would know. And so it all comes down for me to say that the person who's invoking, like, you couldn't have any intelligibility of facts in the world without the Christian God. They don't know any better to solve skeptical, what are called, like, problems with solipsism or real world skepticism. The mere fact that you have some revelation from a being doesn't actually entail that you have a revelation from said being. It could just be some being that wants to masquerade as the Christian God and reveal the information. It could be the case that it is Yahweh and it wants the person to know every true proposition as actually being false, right? It would have it in all of its power to do that. And the basis here is that you are only using your phenomenal states, right? Your mental states. You have to decipher that the revelation is actually coming from a deity, right? And so there's no like justification. It's just a belief, right? It's just, I have this belief and I believe it very, very strongly. There's no actually justification. What would be successful, right, for the presuppositionalists to do, because in virtue of what they're saying, which is that you can't have intelligibility without the Christian God, or intelligibility exists if and only if the Christian God exists. What they need to supply, right, instead of going into channels and saying, present me your worldview and I'll show you why it doesn't work, you can kill all those views with one stone by delivering what's called a deductive a priori argument, right? So this would just be an argument where the premises are true, the structure is valid, and it concludes that God exists, and the entailment of a contradiction, or to say the antithesis of that, which would be that God does not exist, couldn't be the case in virtue of that successful argument. But what you'll see with presuppositionalists is they don't offer you an argument, right? They just want to say, your TV's broken, right? Therefore, my TV works, which isn't even an argument. So I go long-winded there. But the fact that if you came over and we drive to my house, right, and you're saying my worldview is broken, right? I'm thinking that's like, we drove to my house and you said my TV doesn't work. And I'm like, okay, let's go to your house, because you're telling me that you got like this big package of, sports package on your TV or whatever it is, right? Like you have all the channels, and I drive to but you won't even let me get in the car to drive to your house to see if your TV works, because you don't want to actually defend it or provide the argument.
Yeah.
So the problem that it is it won't matter, right? Like you don't have to. Nobody has to die on a hill for a presuppositionalist. You could take any view you want, right? You could just say like, I'm a naturalist, I'm not a naturalist, I'm an idealist, or I'm a physicalist. You can take whatever position and just say you've already contradicted yourself. That doesn't substantiate the claim that they're making, that you can only have intelligibility if the Christian God exists. That has all of its work ahead of it. So if you say something like it's impossible to the contrary, then supply the argument that makes the contrary impossible, right? Don't just merely state it, right? What if I just said I went and I smoked a joint, right? And naturalism revealed itself to me that it's true. It's the same. It's on an epistemic par. It's the same exact thing, right? So
yeah,
that's my soapbox. But there's a lot of angles.
I mean, fantastic. Honestly, like that was great. It's just like, and the other thing too is like I hear a lot. What I've heard a lot of them say is, I have gotten revelation through God's creation. It's like, well, wouldn't you need a God to reveal itself, to reveal that it created itself, or revealed its creation through its creation by revealing itself? Like, wouldn't you need something to prove to people or show to people that saying like, hey, God revealed himself through creation. Here's the God that I'm talking about that revealed himself through this.
Well, and revelation is necessarily first person too, right? So I don't know how it has motivational force to anybody else that you had a revelation, right? How does that help me? What does that do for me?
Exactly. It's like if I was walking in the woods and I was like, oh my God, there's Bigfoot. I'm gonna go tell everybody that Bigfoot's there. Okay, sweet. hey, guess what, everybody? I found Bigfoot. This is awesome. He's out there. Well, how do you know that you saw him? Well, hey, I just, I saw him that I saw him. He revealed himself to me. I don't think he knew that I saw him, but, I saw him, and you got to take my word for it.
Well, and let me add this. Let me add this real fast to that, right? What set of observations could you have, right? You could look at anything in the world. Is there any set of observations a person could have where they couldn't attribute it to a god? Doesn't it seem like any set of observations that anybody makes, they could contribute that to the revelation of a god, right?
Right.
Yeah, right. So the idea there is that how in the hell do we know to interpret the intentions of the being if we don't have access to the speaker, right? If I don't have access to the God and you're saying it's revealed to you, right, through special revelation or through the Bible, right? Like that doesn't leave, it still could follow that something is just fucking with us. It's just like, I just feel like messing with people today, giving them something to argue about. And I'm just going to masquerade as Yahweh today, right? And reveal this to these beings. What's the contradiction in that view?
Oh,
I see no contradiction.
Exactly. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so
it was a very strange thing to me. And go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I keep cutting you off. My point, I guess, is like when anybody could use any set of experiences and attribute that to the revelation, and I have no access to that, right? I can just say I don't have that experience. I don't know that God exists, and this is. I said I wasn't going to go into this, but I guess I will. There's this aspect of they cite Romans 1:20, which is like that no man is without excuse, right? That it's instilled within our hearts. Romans 2:15 about like the moral code, right? And they use these types of things to like say that you do know, right? You suppress it. But like if it's the case that,
which is ridiculous.
So this is the way I look at it. If you, and this is proposed by, this isn't like my idea or anything like that, but there's some really smart people, Alex Malpass and people out there that have some really good ideas on presuppositionalism. And for me, it's like, if you told me like if you had a refrigerator and that everybody in the world knew that refrigerator existed or something, if I go around the street and I ask somebody like, hey, do you know that this refrigerator exists? And they say no. Like just definitionally, that thing cannot exist, right? The entailment was that everybody knows it exists. So if I find an example of somebody, the logical entailment is that thing doesn't exist because it was defined as everybody knowing it. And so we find one example, we've literally just contradicted the view. It can't be true. So when you say God, everybody knows God exists, and I just say I don't know it, right? And then they go, well, how do you defend that you don't know it? Well, I take knowledge to be justified true belief. I don't even have a belief in the proposition, which is like the most crucial part of, even if we disagree on our definition of knowledge, belief's going to be really crucial, right? And I don't even believe the proposition, right? So then it just follows that God can't exist because in order for that God to exist, everyone would have to know it exists. In virtue of one person not knowing it exists, that thing does not exist in this world. It can't.
Exactly. And it's like telling something what they believe too. It's like, you believe this and I know you believe it. It's like, you can't tell people that. You can't do that. Like I used to be a Christian. I grew up born again Christian my whole life. And even when I was in there, I would look at this stuff and be like, how could I possibly know without knowing that something exists that hasn't revealed itself in any way? Like, it's like if I was let's say I was writing a book and I was designing a character and I was telling this person that this character was real and I was just defining it into existence.
Yeah.
And then trying to make this person believe that this thing is real. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And the more I listen to these types of arguments with them or against them, I'm like, how do you guys do this every day? How do you believe in this every day and try and get other people to believe in your precepts? That whole word's hard for me to say sometimes. And
well, what's powerful to them is
when you can't back it up.
Well, I think what's powerful to them, if I'm trying to get in the shoes, is this idea of ultimate, right? Having this ultimate foundation, right? Which that just presupposes like a certain view on knowledge, right? Like which you could be called a foundationalist view of knowledge, right? Like it assumes some category where somebody could just disagree. Like, look, I don't need an ultimate thing there. That's not required in my worldview. But there's a point to be made. Like, I have no, like, there's nothing I I don't need an ultimate definition. I'm a subjectivist, like moral subjectivist. Or let's go, I guess health is probably the better one to get less in the weeds, but I don't need to know what health is defined as purely and ultimately for me to know what states I prefer over another state, right? I don't need to have ultimate knowledge to know of how I can interact in the world and have results, right? We look at Newtonian mechanics or things like this where it has application yet is fundamentally wrong on how you're viewing its application in physics, right? So the idea of this ultimate knowledge without application or that you would have unintelligibility, it's clearly incoherent because that's the world we all live in. We all live under pragmatic limitations and not knowing fully, but it doesn't stop anyone from making progress. And it definitely isn't solved by positing some God that instantiates it. I don't see why I couldn't just say it's instantiated by something that's mindless. It makes no sense to me. But.
Exactly. And it's almost like a created reality in their own minds at the same time by saying you can't have a reality unless you have this ultimate thing creating the reality that you experience. And it's like, but I'm experiencing reality right now and I've never been demonstrated or shown that there is something that created that ultimacy. Like, so where are you coming from? Like, what reality do you live in that is separate from mine to where I can observe and see and observe that there's nothing there yet that I've been shown evidence of when they're like, it sure is, it's here.
Well, and I would say before we move on to other callers, I would say
I
start out small. If you talk to a precept and they're not just being entirely disingenuous, which there are I've had really good conversations with presuppositionalists before. Just ask them, because this is my genuine consideration, is that if you think my worldview, if I picked out like 20 people and you said all of our worldviews are wrong, in virtue of the impossibility of the contrary, all that's telling me is that not P isn't true, P is true, right? And not P can't be true, like it's impossible. So give me the deductive argument that makes that the case. Show me show me how my worldview, or instead of trying to show me how my worldview is a squared circle or whatever, just show me how your worldview is actually the one. Give me the argument. And 9 out of 10 times, because they don't have the argument, they don't give anything. It's just beg the question. It's the game of begging the question. And you'll tap out of that eventually. It's just only so much you can handle. But we do appreciate your call, Rain, and I enjoy talking about this. I haven't talked about precepts in a while, so it's been a minute. But hopefully my rambling gives you something to think about.
No, dude, you did not ramble at all. Like, I was prepared to just sit back and sip my coffee and be like, "Yep, I'm here to learn today." And you know what? You taught me a lot of great things, and gosh, I love listening to you guys. I love listening to everybody that has knowledge for me to gain and just be better and just learn how to do this stuff. And, thank you so much for taking my call.
Hey,
I'll let you guys move on. See you later, Jesus. See you later, Jmike.
Thanks, Rand. I'm sure there's stuff we can learn from you as well. I think everybody can learn stuff from anybody. So just depends on what you're passionate about. But Jesus, what do you think about the precepts? What do you think about the precepts? I
don't do much debating. I tend to just stick to parables, stories, allegories, things like that, and not get too much into trying to change anybody's mind.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's not everybody's cup of tea, and I completely get it. And that cup of tea, the precept cup of tea, is it's like a week-old tasting cup of tea, so it doesn't go down smooth. We're gonna move on to callers, but before I go to our first theist caller, I want to say that we're going to continue this conversation. I think JC and myself are going to the Discord after this, right? I believe you are.
Yeah.
Awesome. I have faith that JC will be there.
Praise be.
Actually, I have evidence. It's told. So we can continue that there, and that will be at tiny.cc/ACD Discord. Also, right after that, the flagship show of the Atheist Experience Network, The Nonprofits, airs at 3 p.m. Central, and you can check that out after today after the show. And if you for whatever reasons you've missed out on Nonprofits or Secular Sexuality or any of these shows, this is what you've missed.
And of course, we are joined by Mandisa Thomas.
Hello, I think this is my first time on Secular Sexuality. Maybe
we get
the
to be
second?
your first.
I don't know. I think I'm rational. Probably not. But like some people say that I am. And it's like, I still have this weird thing that freaks me out. And I don't know. Everybody's got those.
No, I was just going to say, honestly, I'm not surprised. I know some people out there may be hearing this and think, wow, I really would have thought Satan would have done better.
We're riding off into the sunset, and I want the chat to tell us which one of us is Butch Cassidy and which one of us is the Sundance Kid.
Who's Thelma and who's Louise?
And joining me today is Dave Carpe, the bleeping diem.
Do we actually bleep on this show? I thought we said everything.
Well, it seems that if you did miss, you have a lot to catch up on there. And so you can go back and check out those on, like I said, on the AEN podcast, tiny.cc/AEN podcast, or here on YouTube. Let's go ahead and give Jeff a chance here. This is a theist. So we got Jeff from Ohio and wants to talk about, he says he thinks he can verify that we ourselves are the Trinity. Jeff, you are on with Jesus Christ and myself. And what you got for us?
Hi, Jmike, JC.
Hey, Jeff.
My call.
Of course.
Yeah, well, I suppose I had to start by thanking JC for being willing to be the best arbitrator I've ever found between mind and body. Frankly, I don't have any reason to trust either one. And you got to have an arbitrator so that the two can at least attempt to get on the same page.
I think both of us probably need a little bit more to unpack there.
You're going to need some more.
I'm like a middleman of sorts between.
Understood. Well, can we agree the mind can't be trusted? Or that the body cannot be trusted? That they seem to be entities of their own, and they kind of call the shots. We offer them suggestions, but at the end of the day, they're going to do what they want to.
I'm not sure I'm tracking. Two things there. One, mind-body distinction, a physicalist would just disagree with that. And then secondly, what?
But let's just start with the mind. The simple question is, can it be trusted to offer anything? What do you guys like to talk about well-being? I mean, does the mind offer anything that even remotely would help us out with the problem of well-being as far as the mind is concerned?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
I don't find that my mind really helps me out as far as well-being. That's why I'm constantly looking for an arbitrator. Because it doesn't agree with the body. Those two don't even get along very well.
Jeff, what are you using Jeff, what do you have to use for the arbitrator?
Well, you got to do something that'll either silence or block.
Yeah, but if you've already set this premise that your mind fails and you're using your intentional states, your mental states to determine the arbiter, isn't that flawed on parity of your own reasoning?
Well, no, not really. Not really.
Okay, so you're not using mind or body, the things that you disagree with, to come to the arbiter of Jesus?
I wouldn't have to. I mean, I could use sex, drugs, rock and roll, making money, doing whatever I have to try to silence the voice of the mind that just refuses to cooperate with me. It doesn't offer me well-being. It doesn't offer any satisfaction. But frankly, I've tried all those other arbiters.
Okay, and
they all failed.
I don't want to take that.
Is that making any sense?
I'm trying to track through it. Maybe Jesus. He's shaking his head. No, so maybe Jesus can.
I'm a little in the dark here too. It sounds like what you're trying to say is that maybe the mind or consciousness maybe is separate than the body, and that I am somehow the one that kind of decides to shut off which of the two when I think it best serves you. Am I understanding that correctly?
You're the one that, well, you would be the one who would make sense of the two.
Well, I can tell you this. I'm not doing that. That's not the case. I think the mind and the body are the same, are one and the same. And yeah, our perceptions can fail us. Our ideas can fail us. I mean, there's many things that we should have to filter. Yes, I think you're kind of getting that way, but I'm trying to understand how I come into this.
Well, I'm seeing a third voice here, because if we were actually in control of those two, let's call them systems, I think we would prefer that the body be comfortable. And I think we would prefer that the mind would be sound, that it wouldn't be our enemy. But we're finding that that's not the case. We're finding that those two are both, well, essentially, they oppose us. They are not our friends. They do not cooperate with anything that I would construe as, well-being. They just don't do that. And I guess I'm trillion-dollar pharmaceutical companies who agree with me.
Yeah, but you're talking, okay, look, those are accounted for on a molecular level, right? And predictions that have been generated on a molecular level. I don't know what it is you're positing as some other category. Just sounds like a confusion of the categories you're looking at already.
Possibly. All I know is, like you say, we do have this internal voice, and it's not of our doing because it's involuntary.
Why is it not of our doing? What do you mean?
Because we can't silence it. Well,
okay.
Because if we had control of it, we would silence it, and we can't do that.
Okay, and so what does that lead you to exactly? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Got to have an arbitrator. Leads me to JC right there.
Awesome. Hold on. Let's stop right there. Hold on, Jeff. Stop right there. Okay, you have to have an arbitrator. Okay. But isn't the thing prompting what you think is the right arbiter the thing that you're saying is not reliable?
I've tried like I said before, I've tried other arbitrators.
No, you're not. Not other arbiters. The mechanism at which you think is faulty, is it or is it not the thing that is determining what the right arbiter is? I don't care what the arbiter is. I don't care if it's Jesus or Allah. I'm saying, isn't it the same exact thing that you are undermining that now for some reason provides like good evidence for the arbiter?
Well, there may not be any arbitrators. Yeah, there may not be any effective arbitrators. I'm just.
My point is that how would you break free from having to rely upon the thing at which you think is ultimately in error, right? If you ultimately think this thing is an error, being mental, right? Then how are you assessing an arbiter?
Break free. Yeah, we don't break free. We have to make sense of it. In some way, shape, or form, we have to make sense of mind and body. As it stands, like you say, they don't make sense, and they don't do what
Okay, so just look, Jeff. This is really simple, and then I'm gonna move on. Because all you're saying, this whole thing summed up is, I don't understand X, therefore it has to be Y, which is personal incredulity, right? That's fine. That's your personal incredulity. The actual like novel predictions that are being used in neuroscience or physics just don't care about people's personal incredulity. So like I would just keep that in mind, I guess, because like I don't know why, like one, I don't know that I don't really understand A to B to C, but then I also don't understand like why, because you're confused on A, that it couldn't be, it couldn't be explained, and therefore you've come up with it, which is mind-boggling to me, because the thing that you're saying is an error is the thing you have to use to come up with this whole thing to fix it. So I'm not understanding.
Yeah, that's the additional voice I was talking about. Thus, I think we are a type of Trinity. So it's there's got to be another voice in there Well, let me ask you directly. Do you trust your mind? Do you trust yours? And I mean with everything. To tell you the truth, to offer soundness.
There's two ways to
not
cash that.
When you don't want it to be.
Yeah, there's two ways to cash that out. There's two ways to cash that out. Do I trust like things that I think that might be true? Sometimes I don't. If I was confident and I'm just wrong about it. But do I trust my what my mental states could do? Or yes, I mean I'm forced to. I don't know how that follows. Where hold on. So in the absence of trust there, in the absence of trust there, where how does Jesus solve the answer?
Okay.
Are you
asking me that question? Are you asking me that? Because you got Jesus sitting right there. You got Jesus sitting right there.
Fair enough. I'm just curious on, you're saying that you've determined this third category being Jesus, right? Or this arbiter, right?
Right.
Yeah, I don't even want to go to the part. Hold on, no. I don't even want to go to the part about like wondering why it solves it yet, because I'm still stuck on this idea that you have to use your mind to determine the arbiter, which is the thing that you think's an error. It's like it wouldn't matter what thing you chose.
Don't have to use the mind. Yeah, I'm not saying you have to use your mind. Like I say, I'm saying there's got to be there's another voice out there that's outside of our mind. It's doing things
just personal incredulity. Like if it's just not the case and you don't understand neuroscience well, or what your presentation of experiences doesn't match onto how how things are actually working, then you're just wrong, right? And so I don't know why you're attached to like it can't be this thing, it must be this other thing. That's just personal incredulity. It's literally just saying
it's there, and based on the fact that if we were in control, this creature, like say, the body would cooperate and the mind would maintain a soundness. But
how do you demonstrate that? How do you demonstrate that, Jeff?
Pharmaceutical companies that are trillionaires trying to.
I'm not asking for you. I'm not asking for a false analogy. I'm asking you how you demonstrate your claim.
Well, just the fact that even in my own existence, I can see where my body it does not.
No, I'm not saying for you. I'm saying how do you demonstrate that, right? If this is an objective fact of the world we all share, how do you demonstrate it?
Oh, like I say, pharmaceutical companies that are trillionaires.
Again, I'm going to get frustrated and just move on to another caller. Don't give me an analogy. That's. I
apologize.
It's not analogous.
Here.
How do you demonstrate your actual claim? Pharmaceutical companies don't demonstrate your claim of Jesus in any way. You have to demonstrate your claim.
The effectiveness of my arbitrator?
How do you demonstrate that is actually a thing in the world as the arbitrator? That would serve as a thing there. How do you demonstrate that?
Oh, you can't demonstrate that.
Okay, so why do you believe it?
You'd have to.
Jeff, you just said you can't demonstrate it. So then why do you believe it?
Yeah, you can't.
Okay, so why do you believe it?
Right, everything else. Well, because it does offer a type of soundness that allows me to go outside mind and body. It allows me to oppose those two without attacking myself.
Okay, I think dualism is true, and that helps me. So now how do we arbitrate who's right? I think dualism solves that issue. I didn't need God for it. So, right, like
dualism, real quick.
Dualism is depending on which thing you take, just mind and body is distinct, right? And my point is to parody it and say I think dualism is true, and dualism doesn't entail you have to be a theist. And so if I take dualism to be true, and that solves that. Right. And if say I can't demonstrate it, but you can't demonstrate it, what have we highlighted? We've highlighted pragmatic, like utility, like a methodological utility on something, not actual epistemic justification for the claim. And this isn't just something that we can just make ourselves feel like warm and fuzzy because it solves something. Like people are legitimately having a hard time in their faith. People are legitimately being chastised through people of the faith. People's rights are being imposed through the faith. So it's not just like attached to this little warm fuzzy of it makes me feel good, and the personal incredulity will serve me well, but in virtue of everybody else, that's going to suck for them. No, I take it a little bit more seriously than to say I have some methodological utility in just my personal incredulity. I care about why something would be true or not.
It's just a simple matter, really, in the practice, is to oppose.
If it's simple, then you'd be able to demonstrate it.
You live in opposition to those. That'll give you everything you need to know, because it'll set your mind exactly what should be focused on, what actually is important, what is actually real and true, what's falsifiable. I mean, all of that's contained in the opposition to the mind and the body. Oppose the two, and it'll come to the surface. That's just
look. You said you can't demonstrate it. You said you couldn't demonstrate it, which entails there's no falsification criterion. So I don't know why we would weed into that. I'm going to move on to other callers. But Jesus is I don't want to speak all over Jesus here, so I want to, yeah.
You want to
quite all right.
Does he want to say anything? Does he have another for me or something?
Yeah, I mean,
Jeff, I just want you to know that I love you. And even though you and I may not necessarily see eye to eye on things, I still love you, and you don't disappoint me nearly as much as like pretty much everyone else. So thanks for calling in. That was an interesting discussion.
Well, thanks for taking my call. You guys are awesome. I watch you all the time.
Well, thank you, Jeff. Hopefully it went too hard on you, but yeah,
no, you're fine.
I'm just not concerned with what makes someone feel good if they're saying they can't demonstrate it. And so for me, it's just, I think that, right, what are the steps, like or the earlier call, what are the steps that we can kind of take, towards having more people kind of take this seriously or get to whatever other side, right? For me, right, it's to not allow people to make arguments for utility or because it makes them feel good, and to show that avoids the actual issue, and that will cause the problems. But for anyone that does not know, we have a Patreon, and you can become a patron at I always want to say Patreon. You can become a Patreon, and I said it right, so I'm going to acknowledge, pat myself on the back. But you can become a patron on Patreon at tiny.cc/Patreon TH, and we have our top 5. Actually, we have an honorary mention, so we have 6 top patrons of the week, and that is Eric Tweet, Dingleberry Jackson, Balam's Donkey, Paul Leah, the Great, North American Dingalo, and the honorary mention is Brainery. So we thank you for supporting us, and anyone else that considers doing so in the future. Yeah, that was interesting, Jesus. I don't know, do you have any synopsis on that or anything?
I couldn't really understand. I mean, honestly, I couldn't really understand his question or his reasoning behind the whole. Is he a dualist? And I'm not really sure. Again, this is why I usually just try not to. I don't really debate people. I just love them as much as I can and try to, forgive.
Sure. Yeah. Maybe it's a third or a new category in the philosophy of mind that they'll take some shape here in the academia soon. We have another theist on the line. And so the name here is The Recipe from Canada, and it just says Christ is God. I'm going to give this over to Jesus since you're, God and all. And so I think this will be interesting.
Shalom.
Yeah, I don't know about all shalom to you, but I find it interesting. You quoted Romans 1:20, and I believe my interactions with you guys is a demonstration or fulfillment of Romans 1:20, the fact that you are fighting against the truth. Given the fact that I have debated most of your popular atheist apologists, even your friend Jmike, your friend ceased to know.
Oh, this is the 7-week argument.
Oh, so you already know. So it's funny how.
Yeah, I'm. Hold on. I'm very aware. I'm very. Hold on. No. I'm gonna mute you. I have the power here. You're not gonna talk over me. I understand your weak argument, right? Your weak argument. I get it. If you have another argument, that'd be great. I don't want to bore the audience with what to me like is seriously a really bad argument. But if you have another one, maybe we can go through that. Or JC could go through the weak argument, maybe. And he's like,
am I on now? Yeah.
You were still talking the whole time, so you didn't listen to me. Yep. Thank you.
I did listen. Jmike, it's easy to say I have a weak argument, but it's harder to demonstrate. You have yet to provide an argument. So all I'm saying is, instead of hiding and fulfilling Romans 1:20, how about you actually demonstrate that my argument is weak? Because just saying it's weak and muting me doesn't mean you're right. See, you don't have
that's really easy. You ready? There's no logical entailment from the fact that some civilization came to like what the days would be, right? And that proves some religion. That does not follow. For you to think it follows means you have the most garbage standards of evidence that I've ever heard in my life. I'm sorry.
Okay,
to think that what people create, right, in terms of their established preferred way of looking at the world or something like that is indicative of a creator. I need that inference rule. You're going to have to break that inference rule down for me.
Let me do that. First of all, thank you for strawmanning my argument. Because first of all, my argument is stipulated on the fact that the authorship of the 7-day cycle is unique to the God of the Hebrews. Therefore, every nation kept a different cycle for the veneration of their gods. They created temples. They created the Sumerians created temples. The Egyptians created a temple for their 10 days to worship their gods. So to suggest that the prediction, which is the second proposition, of the universal application of the 7-day cycle as a demonstration of power over all nation cannot be relegated to some type of all the people of the world accepted a 7-day cycle when it went against their religious, cultural aspirations. So try to argue my point and not strawman me, Mr. Jmike.
Awesome. And so that inference rule does not follow that a God exists at all.
Explain which part of the argument.
No. Listen, you're going to get muted again.
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead, JC. Sorry.
I mean, from what I understand is he thinks that just because it's the 7 days cycle or whatever, the calendar that we've ended up with or settled on now was in the Bible, that somehow that's proof. Well, that doesn't make sense when you've got things like algebra, right? Wasn't like the number 0 invented by a completely different religion? I mean, which religion wins? I mean, is it the religion that it totally doesn't make any sense to me either. I don't think it's a strong argument.
Did you just say algebra as a refutation? Are you like?
Well, are you saying a 7-day week is proof of anything? That the validity of the entire Bible is? I mean, there are many other religions that are responsible for things that we still use today that are just as much important. Huh?
Full of universal prediction.
That's not. Look,
you made a statement. Now, back it up.
This isn't a novel prediction from where you think it comes from, right? Like, and you've already tried to say like this that the Sumerians were wrong, right? I think you had that conversation with Johnny. Look, I'll just grant you.
I said they kept a lunar cycle.
Yes, that's fine. That's fine. I'll just grant you what you want. The inference rule doesn't follow. Look, there's no contradiction in the view that they could have came up with it and their God doesn't exist. There's no contradiction in that view. None of what you think applies. Look, it's like thinking you're not even understanding that in either case, right? In the case where there's a secular society that comes up with it, in the case where it's wherever you think it comes from and it proves God. In either case, right? That doesn't prove the inference that God does not exist. Doesn't prove the inference that God did exist, even if it was a secular group. If I looked at some group in the past and they were entirely secular and they came up with this and I used this argument, I'd be embarrassed. That's the best thing in my arsenal is to use this argument. I'd be fucking embarrassed.
I'm not. I'm not the one who made the prediction to say it's the God of the Hebrews, or if you want to claim the Hebrews, they say, look what I'm about to do. In 2,000 years, every nation is going to be submitted to a 7-day cycle. They made the prediction. So I'm just reiterating the argument that they provided, the evidence that they say 2,000 years ago, when it was not universal, when only Israel kept a 7-day cycle, they stated that their God said he would submit all nations to a 7-day cycle as a sign.
Okay, and so hold on, look. That is what. Hold on, look, stop. Would the same prediction of in Hinduism that the Earth is 4.3 billion years old when it's actually what 4.5, or I think it was 4.5 and it's 4.3, right? Does that prove Hinduism is true? That's a way better prediction than the fucking weak cycle. Are you kidding me? So by your logic, Hinduism should be true, right? Because that's a much better prediction.
Let's give you.
No, answer the question, or I'll answer the question, or I'll move on. Directly answer the question, or I'm done with you. I do not care. You've got enough airtime for your garbage argument, and I'm about done with it. So answer the question or not. Is that by parity of reasoning, is Hinduism now true? You're unmuted. Actually, he's not. I lied. Now you're unmuted.
Oh, okay, thank you. I will answer your question directly, but it's funny how you entertain the crazies, but when you got something real serious in front of you, you run.
Yeah, I'm not interested in your preamble. Give me the answer, or I'll drop the call. Really simple. Right. So on parity,
answering your question.
Awesome. I'll say it again. On parity of reasoning.
So
right, which this is a much better claim. Hinduism must be true, right?
So let's give you the benefit of the doubt that they did say 4.2 billion. Is that 4.2 or 4? Is it 4.2 or is it 4.5? So it's not an accurate prediction. My prediction is universal. It's accurate 100%. 4.2 to 4.5. That's 3 billion. And that's if I accept your false premise. But even if I were to get accepted, it's still not a prediction. 4.2.
Look. Okay, so stop. I'm gonna hold on. 4.5 isn't like an untenable position on the age of the Earth, right? Like it could be that through the years that it actually just aligns with 4.3. Our current knowledge is not indicative of that. We've exhausted the knowledge, right? Like you're just exposing how your thought process even works. Like you don't even like think about, in virtue of like what the novel prediction of science is predicting isn't just saying, it's not like falsification is no longer acceptable. Like at all times we can falsify this. And what if we get to the point and just the state of affairs is the case that the universe is 4.3, right? And Hinduism got it true. Are you willing to back off Christianity in favor of a much better claim? Yes or no?
Again, you went to a prediction, which is false, 4.2, 4.5. Now you're saying, oh, well, you should get some leeway. That's all.
No. No, so you're not gonna straw. It's ironic someone says I straw man them when they just straw man my point, right? My point is not that I'm giving leeway. My point is that the Earth being 4.5 now, which is substantiated way more than any belief that you have in this religion, right? That could be changed. It could be 4.3. And if it's 4.3 at that time, or if it just ends up, say we exhaust all the knowledge and we go, oh, it's 4.3. Are you willing to change? I'm trying to point out how bad this reasoning is, because even if they got it right, that isn't enough evidence for Hinduism to be true, right?
Yeah.
That's my point. So would you accept it? Because it seems that you accept really bad evidence. And I'm trying to see if you're just consistent with really bad evidence.
Yeah, you made your point. It went from 250 million years to 4.2 billion years to 4.5. So basically what you're saying is you're so desperate to try to find some type of argument, a disgusting argument, that you would try to suggest that my argument, which is universal, is the same thing as somebody claiming it was 250 million years. Then it went to 4.2 billion years. Now it's 4.5. You're all over the place, Jmike, Monsieur.
Okay.
I'm an atheist.
Okay, I'm gonna give you another shot. I'm gonna try not to take the unnecessary, I guess, straw man or whatever you want to put there. But
I would just ask him a question rather than just. I'm just curious. Socratically, what I just want to know is if the 7-day cycle is like the proof, the smoking gun or whatever that you're trying to say it is. Why is it so broken? We don't have it doesn't work properly. That's why we have a leap year. That's why, it's the one we settled on.
Well, it's an arbitrary. Yeah, look, it's just people setting some criterion of like what the state of affairs is as divisional, as opposed to like here's the age of the Earth, which would be a much better claim.
Perfect. If it was created that way, it should just be created perfectly to where there aren't all these exceptions, like leap years and such, so that we can get it to kind of work and wiggle it in. It's like the argument that, the human body is so perfect, the eyeball is so perfect, therefore there must be a creator. But then you look at the body and it isn't perfect. Yes, it's great, but there's a lot of flaws with the human body. There's a lot of issues.
JC. Yes. Hey, buddy, a 7-day cycle has nothing to do with years. The Hebrew 7-day cycle has nothing to do with a yearly cycle. So your point is out the window. And I'm telling you, you should start smoking that weed that you're smoking because you're really out there. And Mr. Jmike, I embarrassed your.
Yeah, we're not gonna have any like derogatory if your argument was that good, like if it was really good and it proved God and Jesus and all that, right? Like at no point would you resort to like some unnecessary character assassination that has nothing to do with like the actual argument that proves God, right? You would just
ad hominem.
You just stay focused on the argument.
Yeah, I don't need an ad hominem attack. It really, I mean, when you do say that it's proof that the numbers and everything, then you've really got to look into the numbers. I mean, and it is that it all. I don't know. It is whatever. Let's move on.
Well, look, if anybody come up to me and they said they believed something and it was true in virtue of somebody predicting what some society would accept was the right cycle, right? Like if it's just the best way that we categorize or the best way that we come to, there's just no entailment that had anything to do with the thing that you're propping up. They're just not related. The prediction you make has nothing to do with the actual phenomena which you think exists. It's just people within the group that claim that it has absolutely nothing to do with like the metaphysics of the religion, nothing to do with the doctrines of the religion. It could be wrong, and I'd still grant that God could exist. It's just a really weird argument to go on. Like I would never say, "Oh, the secular society, 7-day week, therefore, like no God." What? Who would do that? All right. We'll try to get one more caller in if we can. I think we got time. I think we do. We got time. So we got Austin in looks like Mississippi. Pronouns are he, him. Existential dread of becoming an atheist, fear of death. You're on with Jesus Christ and Jmike. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are y'all? So my fear of death, I don't think it really comes from like fear of like being dead. Is that what you're saying? Like it's more of a fear of like leaving something behind, like not wanting to hurt. Because like I've had suicidal tendencies in the past. It's not really a suicide thing. I just don't want like that kind of open my eyes to different parts of like hurting my family,
Yeah, Jesus, you probably have a lot better to say on this than for me. I've had.
I could speak from experience here. Being dead is not all what it's cracked up to be. Trust me, living is much, much, much better. And I'll tell you this. Really, there's nothing to be afraid of. I personally believe that it's just you leave something behind every night when you go to bed, and you don't really think too much of that, But being dead really is just like being asleep. It's just it goes black. So there really isn't anything to be afraid of. But you bring up a good point, and it's those around you. Because that's really what being dead is. It's now you're going to have a bunch of people that miss you and love you and aren't going to be able to interact with you anymore. And that's going to make them sad and make them, feel something. And I'm not going to say whether that's good or bad or anything. That's just how it is.
And mostly it's I know where the fear kind of started coming from. I lost 5 family members last year. So that's kind of like, and my mom lost 2 of her sisters, and my dad lost both his parents. And then a best friend of mine passed away.
Oh man, I'm
so
sorry.
There's a lot of that coming from losing like 5 family members.
Yeah.
Well, then you know the pain. You know that pain that someone goes through when they lose somebody that they love, and I'm real sorry. I'm real sorry to hear that.
Oh yeah, where are you at now? I mean, are you? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry?
Austin. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, how would y'all deal with that? I guess, or what was y'all? Have y'all ever been through that?
Well, fear of death specifically. The like, I have like I don't have very many. I've like massive fears or anything. I would say like, but one that does really still concerns me is like being in some vegetative state where I like don't have access to tell people that I want my life to be ended. Because if I was in that state, I would want it to be done. I would not want to go on living my life for other people. That would view that as very selfish. And I don't think the people around me would ever, take that. But just to know you're not in control is freaky there for me. But I have never had any issues with like hell or anything. Or anything like from the religious side, because I wasn't indoctrinated on that perspective. So that's always been foreign to me. I think JC as well, probably. I'm just assuming, but I know you. I don't know if I want to use Mormon or Church of, what the right terms, but but I know you come.
No, I definitely was taught the fear of all sorts of things. It's not much different than Santa Claus. I think just a much grander thing to kind of get people to do the right thing, I guess. So.
Yeah, I'm gay and I have autism, so there's that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've had people tell me I'm going to hell for being gay. And then I've also had people tell me that people who, I'm not going to use the R word, are going to hell because they're not allowed in heaven. I'm like, well, that's like really stupid, Like, that's 2 things against me that, like, things I can help.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this, Austin. All the cool people are in hell. Yeah. I mean, like, that's where you want to be. That's where the fun is at. That's where all the good times.
Down there, right?
Well, it's not what you think. They got air conditioning now. It's not so bad. They got Wi-Fi
check behind
too.
me. It's fine. It's cozy in here.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all so much for taking my call today. It helps out a lot. I'll give that stuff some thought.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and remember to reach out. Like, there's a lot of resources. First one that comes to mind is, secular therapy, right? I mean, just there's a psychotherapy project. I don't know that you would, or maybe recovering from religion. I don't know that you would, I don't know where you are mentally, and I don't know where I there's a line. Because I don't have your background and the background of a lot of other religious people in that sense. But, I just say that there's resources out there, specifically, I think Google's a really good tool, especially, but you see people on these shows and other shows list them, and they might be worth looking into.
Yeah, this is my first time calling in, by the way, like for any of the ACA. I've been listening for years, and I was having a call today. So, but yeah, I think it's pretty cool talking to you guys. Thank you.
Well, thank you for calling in.
Love you, Austin.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
All right. I think we got time for another one. Looks like.
All right.
Make a little short one here. We will go with JC, do you want to talk about the historicity of Jesus, or would you like to talk about closed-minded Christian families?
We can talk about anything you want. I mean, I'm happy to talk whatever subject you'd like. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I guess let's talk about the historicity of Jesus with Gabriel in Canada. Pronouns are he, him. And how's it going?
Hi, yes. So hello to you both, and shout out to the call screener.
Yes, always love the shout outs to the call screeners. We appreciate all the work that they do and the crew and everybody behind the scenes. So we appreciate that.
They're doing a great job. Yes. All right. So yes, I just wanted to make sure that I answered the question, and I think Jesus is a real guy. I see him in the screen right now.
Thank you.
Thank
you. Finally. Yes. Today there's two of us.
Yeah. So what is the plural? Is it Jesus? Jesuses?
Jesus.
Yeah, Jesus.
Jesus.
All right. Okay. Yeah. So
it's in the red lettering somewhere. You'll find it.
Yeah. 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 So actually, so that was just an answering of the question. I think my real subject it was about if you could give me some tips about creating a skeptical or atheist-driven group in my area.
Well, so we a lot of if you watch the shows at the beginning or sprinkled throughout the shows, we have a couple fan group shows or fan run groups rather. If you didn't hear earlier, one of them is tiny.cc/FGTHG, which is our Facebook one. And then we have the Discord one, which we will be going to after, which is tiny.cc/ACD Discord. And if you reach out to people within there, it can help. I also think, and this is where Jesus can probably agree, is that TikTok is a good place. When I went into TikTok, I ended up meeting a lot of people and having some of them like fly to my area and hang out with them and stuff like that. And it was really cool because I didn't know these people until I got on, downloaded some app on my phone and we made video, content, shared each other. So there's a lot of resources out there to use. I don't think there's like any right one, but you're going to have to go with whatever I guess you're most comfortable with and see how that works. I think TikTok is a really good one because of the amount of eyes that are just, all day long. That you might get some people that aren't even in the community, like you don't even discuss these things. All of a sudden they see one video and then their brain starts going like, I never really thought about that. And then maybe a year down the road, they're, an activist themselves or something. So.
Yeah. I'd also check out. I'd check out meetup.com in your area and see if there's any pre-existing, atheist meetup game nights or something like that. Every city seems to have one or two of those. But I think Meetup's a good one, and Reddit is also a good place too to check out.
Okay.
Yeah, caution on the Reddit. You have to sift through some of the.
That's true. There's quite a bit of subreddits there, but if you could find a good one that works for you.
Yeah, there's a lot to go through for sure. But yeah, I mean, hopefully that answers that for you. I don't know if you wanted to know if our positions on the historicity of Jesus or not before we go, and if that was part of the call. Were you curious on that at all?
Yeah, sure. You can. You can certainly give more details for the benefits of the other people listening.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Jesus, I'm curious. Setting this up because I'm kind of curious on your position. So, what's your position?
As far as the sorry.
No, sorry. I thought you were talking to me. Sorry.
Yeah, you as well, Gabriel.
Go ahead, Gabriel. What do you think about do you think Jesus was actually a real person?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of truth in the myth, but it was greatly exaggerated, like it was common at this time in this time period. So yeah, I think there might have been a guy who preached and all of that, and the stories got mixed in and exaggerated, but nothing more crazy than that.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah. So Gabriel, yeah, well, yeah. Actually, I want to cut Jesus off. Jesus, yeah, go off. We're gonna try to fit another caller in. Gabriel, I'm gonna let you go, but we'll have Jesus give that, and then we appreciate your call, bud.
Yeah. Thanks, Gabriel.
So yeah, Jesus, what's your position on the history, the question of the day?
I think Gabriel nailed it.
Pun intended. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that there was maybe I don't think there was as far as maybe. I'm sure there was a Jesus. I'm sure there was maybe a few Jesuses, but I don't think there was any miracles, and there probably wasn't even a crucifixion. But there could have been. There could have been, but
yeah, I take that similar. My thing is, I just take the position, yeah, he existed. I don't want to argue about whether a person existed and a religion was found. Like, that seems like, duh, some guy claims and then a religion is formed. That seems about right. It doesn't mean that they, are the thing they claim. I think I have mythicist friends, and I get frustrated. I'm like, why do you, this is such a moot point. Like, you could argue much about, like, you have all this magic and stuff on the table to argue against. Like, why would you take this part? Like, yeah, it's like the most mundane part. But we're going to try to get to Chase, because I know Chase has been waiting for a while now. And this is Chase is from Alabama. His atheist pronouns are he, him. How do you deal with your closed-minded Christian family? I have a very open-minded Christian family. So I haven't had to really have struggles in my family, so I'll give that to Jesus.
Well, Chase, I have quite a few. Hey there. Yeah, I've got quite a few Sadducees and Pharisees in my family, so to speak. And so I'm constantly dealing with that. I mean, but that is really what and why I do what I do. I kind of set up somewhat of a science experiment, so to speak. And then it just kind of spun off into this. I wanted to see if maybe I would get struck down by lightning or something.
That would be a very strong case if it did. But with my family, some of them are going through somewhat of an identity crisis, as I would say, or a midlife identity crisis. And they're just really hard to speak to from a logical level. So do you have any idea on how I could use their belief in God to put them back on the right path and put them back into a proper state?
Yeah, about that. You see, it's really, really difficult to talk somebody out of something quickly that they weren't talked into quickly. If it's been in the family for a while, it's probably going to stay in the family for a while. Good on you for getting out. That's freaking fantastic. But as I can speak from experience too, it's really easy to get hung up on getting everybody else out and getting them to see the light. And sometimes it leads you to do crazy things that end up, create a whole career out of it. But it just really, I mean, even after 5 or 6 years of doing what I've done, I haven't managed to get any of my family to budge. I've gotten other people, sure, but not the people I wanted to.
And I also want to give a huge shout out to the call screener. We all love her, Minnie.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of love for the call screener, so we appreciate that. Was there anything else, Chase, before we're gonna end this short? But I didn't want to, I know you waited online. I just want to make sure we heard everything or got everything answered for you.
Well, I just want to say, Jesus, I have been watching you and keeping you in my eye for about the past 4 years, and it's really kind of shown me how a man can go from seems to be nothing to an empire and continue to even help people along the way. So it shows that all these greedy people in the world who just look at another man on the street and shrug a shoulder, that we're not one of them, and we're the reason that we keep humanity going on strong.
Thank you, Chase. It means a lot to me. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Chase. We appreciate the call. And I'm sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead.
Thank you, gentlemen. And shout out to chat. I have been watching hilarious comments. Gabriel, I know you put that question in the chat earlier just to get on call. Shout out to Gabriel. Great fun to him. Amazing person.
Well, thank you again, Chase. We appreciate it. All right, we've exhausted all the calls, which is awesome. I feel much better about not leaving anybody in the queue and having them spend their valuable time. I really appreciate anyone that does do that. We don't get to, but we have everybody today, so that's great. Want to give first off, where can we find you, Jesus? I think it's pretty easy to find you, but we have a little info thing we can provide as well. But give us your rundown as well.
Well, I'm most active these days on YouTube, of course, and that's just youtube.com/thejesuschrist. Websites, thejesuschrist.com, and I'm on Twitter also, which is the only begotten. I'm the only verified son of God on the entire internet. And of course, if you want to support me directly, get a cameo from me. Go to cameo.com/thejesuschrist, and I will make a personal shout out video for you, or a blessing, or whatever. I'll wish your grandma happy birthday or something. That's how I keep the lights on these days, is through cameo videos. And
that's amazing. Like that. Yeah, I might have to look into that. I think I got a couple people that would be interested in that. I mean, I could just pretend to be you, and then maybe nobody would know.
You could.
It's like gimmick infringement. I don't know. So I don't know if I should do that, but
there are other Jesus. I've sprung up a whole industry. There's several. I'm not the only Jesus you can find on Cameo or Fiverr. I'm just the only verified and true son of God.
I love that. The only verified son of God. Well, there's also ways that you can support us here at Talk Heathen. You can, below the chat, hit the join button. That'll give you perks for the shows, such as being able to talk comment while the slow mode is on. And below that, you can also support us directly with the donation button. You can also go to our podcasts at tiny.cc/AEN podcasts. And then after this show, we will be going to the fan run Discord, tiny.cc/ACD Discord. So if you want to go check that out, we'll be going on right after the show. I want to give a shout out to, first off, I want to give love rings rather to all the viewers, essential, or if you're a believer or not a believer. I just want to give a shout out to all the viewers, anybody that's, first responders, Uber drivers, all the above. We really appreciate it. And even greater thanks, equal thanks, depending on the day, I guess, to the crew cam. We can show up the crew cam for the crew and give them some love and some love rings to them as well. They help me and Jesus look all Jesus-y, put the makeup on. And just a reminder that if you don't believe, this is your community. And if you do believe, we don't hate you. We just aren't convinced. Have a good one.
We want the truth, so watch Truth Wanted live Fridays at 7 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTTW and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/calltw.